ET Sports 84 back with another NBA 2K video. Today, NBA 2K updated NBA 2K24 with the fourth official ratings update of the season. Today is January 11th, 2024. So let's jump right into it and get a review of all the changes in the official roster. As always, we're going to start with the Philadelphia 76ers. Pretty light update for the Sixers in this one. DeAnthony Melton goes +1 to a 78 overall. Paul Reed jumps +1 to a 76 overall. Robert Covington drops -1 to a 76 overall. And then Marcus Morris goes -1 to a 75 overall. Really the only thing that they could have done possibly otherwise to the roster is a +1 for Tyrese Maxey, but he's kind of in line with an 87 overall rating, considering if you look at other guys right in that range of his scoring and assist numbers. Shooting from three hasn't been the greatest over the past 10 to 12 games, so they did not upgrade him. But let's go over to the Milwaukee Bucks. Some changes to them. Brook Lopez goes -1 to an 81 overall. Malik Beasley goes +1 to a 77 overall. Marjon Beauchamp gets a position change to small forward, which also increases him +1 to a 76 overall. Andre Jackson Jr. also gets a position update to shooting guard. He goes -1 to a 72 overall. Doesn't really shoot the ball much, is there to be a perimeter defender. What's up, everybody tuning in? I think I missed some people that commented, so I kind of see them down in the corner. It's PlayStation that's always hit or miss with the comments, so I apologize if I missed anything, but thanks to everybody for tuning in that is tuning in live. We go to Chris Livingston. He got a position update to power forward. No rating change for him. Chicago Bulls, they've looked a lot better without Zach LaVine, but now LaVine is back in the lineup, so it'll be interesting to see if he can get his trade value up. It looks like they'll probably go that route, I would assume, if there's any takers. But let's jump into the Bulls. First up, DeMar DeRozan goes +1 to an 85 overall. Nikola Vucevic goes +1 to an 82 overall. Andre Drummond jumps +1 to a 78 overall. He's looked pretty good when he was starting for Vucevic as he was out, but now he's back to the bench. Still grabs a ton of rebounds, so we'll see what happens going forward with this Bulls team. Dalen Terry goes +1 to a 73 overall, and then two position changes, no ratings change. Terry Taylor to center. Played the small ball role with Vucevic out as well. And then Henry Drell moves to power forward. Very, very limited time in the G League, but he was playing shooting guard, small forward, power forward, but played more power forward than anything else. So they updated him there. Let's jump to the Cavaliers. Very deserving. Jared Allen has been on fire since Evan Mobley went down. He goes +3 to an 86 overall. Well deserved for him. Karis LeVert goes +1 to a 80 overall. Craig Porter Jr. and Sam Merrill both go +2 to a 75 overall. They've really stepped up. I would look for Craig Porter Jr. to get a standard contract any day now. Now with Rubio out off the roster, he basically retired. Of course, they bought him out. I think Craig Porter Jr. is perfect to give that two-way spot to. They can then go sign a player to a two-way contract. Maybe Sharif Cooper. I would like to see Sharif back in the league. Still doesn't shoot the three well, but can at least kind of develop as another point guard in that system. But Georges Niang is the final ratings change for the Cavaliers. 74 overall, +2 for him. He's been playing well. Surprised Dean Wade didn't get a small bump for them, but no change for him. Going over to the Boston Celtics, we finally get Derek White on par with one of the top Celtics. He's tied with Drew Holiday at an 85 overall. That's +2 for Derek White. We get a +1 for Luke Cornett and a +1. Luke Cornett goes to a 76. Peyton Pritchard gets a +1 to a 75 overall. Shpi Mikhailuk goes -1 to a 72 overall. And then Namias Keita, who's on a two-way, playing very well, rebounding the ball, but doesn't shoot at the greatest. A lot of his rebounds come off his own misses, ironically. He goes +3 to a 71 overall. And then Drew Peterson's in the G League for the Maine Celtics. He gets a position update to power forward. No ratings change. Los Angeles Clippers, they've been on fire. Kawhi Leonard recently signed the extension. I forgot to check if the extension actually got added. It does get added. So now they have the extension for Kawhi Leonard in the game. So that's been updated. He gets a +1 bump to a 72 overall. +1 for Paul George to an 89 overall. +1 for James Harden to an 87 overall. +1 for Ivica Zubac to an 82 overall. Then we go down to Daniel Tice, +1 to a 75 overall. And then Terrence Mann took a hit, -2 to a 73 overall. Going over to the Memphis Grizzlies. We have Ja Morant, who is now out for the season. He went +1 to a 93. He was playing well before the shoulder injury that put him out for the rest of the season. Desmond Bane gets a position update back to shooting guard with the news of Morant being out, because that shifts Marcus Smart to point guard, and he was updated position-wise, and it gets a +1 bump to an 81 overall. We go to Zaire Williams. He gets a +1 bump to a 74 overall, while Xavier Tillman Sr. gets a -2 bump to a 74 overall. He's been really bad shooting the ball. Basically is a filler starter whenever we don't see Bismack Biyombo, but now Biyombo's been waived, so it looks like Tillman may start next to Jaren Jackson Jr. We'll see what happens there, how that shakes out. But I thought Vince Williams deserved an upgrade. He had a contract extension. I don't think the numbers came out for his contract extension officially, but he does have the extension here. 3 years, $7.9 million. So 2K went ahead and updated that. I'm sure they'll update it with the actual numbers once that officially comes out. Usually Bobby Marks or somebody like that has the official numbers pretty quickly. So David Roddy goes -1 to a 73 overall. Then John Conchar goes +1 to a 72 overall. I would like to see what happens with the third two-way spot for Memphis. I think they go big man with it. You go get one of the G League big men. There's a plethora of them, so definitely something to look out for with that. So we will see what happens overall. They added some retro players in the eras or in the classic rosters. I didn't see that. I actually didn't look for anything retro this time. Usually I do that after I do the ratings update. So not sure, Daryl. What happens with the not sure when they're going to add more face scans. Don't know when that's coming. But Atlanta Hawks. Let's jump to them. Let's start up at the top. Trae Young's been phenomenal, averaging like 30 points, 11 assists, I believe, since the month of December, or 27 points, 11 assists since the month of December, +1 to a 90 overall. DeJounte Murray goes +1 to an 86 overall. He's been in a lot of trade rumors. Look for maybe the Knicks or the Lakers. We'll see what happens with DeJounte. Obviously, I think it's played out in Atlanta that it's not going to work with the two guards in Murray and Young. Murray can go over to the Knicks or he can go to the Lakers. He is a clutch client, I believe. Jalen Johnson goes +1 to an 80 overall. He has been phenomenal in the Quinn Snyder system. Then we go to Bruno Fernando as the final change, -1 to a 73 overall for him. Moving on to the Miami Heat. We get some changes with them. Tyler Hero goes -1 to an 84 overall. Jaime Jaquez Jr. Is my third place vote for Rookie of the Year behind Wemby and Chet. He goes +1 to an 81 overall. Then we go down to Caleb Martin, goes -2 to a 77 overall. Josh Richardson goes -1 to a 75 overall. Nikola Jovic has been playing great as a starting small power forward. He goes +2 to a 75 overall, while Haywood Highsmith goes -1 to a 74 overall. Then we get Jamal Cain with a small bump, +1 to a 71 overall. I'll be interested to see what happens with Jimmy Butler's injury. His foot has been lingering, so we'll see what happens with him. Going over to the Charlotte Hornets, Brandon Miller gets a position change back to small forward. Terry Rozier goes back to shooting guard. It's in anticipation that LaMelo Ball should come back later over the weekend is what I've heard. So we'll see. And it looks like 2K already took the injury designation off for him in anticipation of that as well. But Brandon Miller also goes +1 to a 79 overall. Nick Richards and PJ Washington both get a bump, +1 to a 78 overall. Cody Martin goes +1 to a 75 overall. And then Nick Smith Jr. has actually gotten playing time, looked pretty good in that small sample size, goes +1 to a 72 overall. We go over to the Utah Jazz. They have been on fire. I think they're 10-2 in their last 12, I believe, if that's correct. Lauri Markkanen gets a position update to power forward. No ratings change. Colin Sexton gets a +2 overall ratings bump to an 82. We got John Collins with a position update to center. No ratings change for him. Jordan Clarkson goes +2 to an 80 overall. Kelly Olynyk gets a position update to 79 overall. Also a position update to power forward. Keontae George goes -1. He's now coming off the bench. He's a 75 overall. And then last but not least, we have Jason Preston added to a two-way contract. So, it is what it is. He's been lighting up the G League, looking really good, except for the three ball. He doesn't shoot it well. But I thought the Jazz could use more love, honestly. Like Fontecchio could have went up. You could have gave a little bit more love to Jordan Clarkson, maybe a +1 bump to Markkanen. They've been the hottest team in the NBA right now. So, we'll see. Maybe another update. We'll see if they update the Jazz a little more, but is what it is for now. Going over to the Sacramento Kings, Domantas Sabonis basically averaging a triple-double over the last 5 games. He goes +2 to an 88 overall. He's now tied with Bam Adebayo. Then we get no bump for Malik Monk. I thought he could get a +1 bump, but nothing for him. Kevin Huerter's struggling. He went down with an ankle injury last night. Maybe out a little while. He goes -1 there. JaVale McGee goes -1 to a 75 overall. And then last but not least, Chris Duarte gets a position change to shooting guard. He's been filling in for Kevin Huerter when he was hurt or struggling, and now that he's hurt, he'll probably start back at shooting guard again. Going over to the Knicks, some changes for them. Jalen Brunson gets in the 90 overall club. He goes +1. Julius Randle also gets a +1 bump to an 86 overall. OG Anunoby gets a position update to small forward, power forward, +2 bump for him to an 82 overall as well. Dante DiVincenzo goes +1 to an 80 overall. Isaiah Hartenstein, been phenomenal in the absence of Mitchell Robinson, goes +1 to a 78, while Josh Hart goes -1 to a 77. Quentin Grimes +1 to a 76. He's been shooting it better lately. Precious Achiuwa goes -1 to a 76. He's out of the rotation. Miles McBride +1 to a 75 overall. Let's see if he got his contract extension in. He does. Contract extension added for him. So that's good to see there. And then for those that don't know, Dwayne Washington Jr. was added a couple updates ago on a two-way contract. So there was that. LA Lakers, also a two-way contract, added Dylan Windler. I think it was the last update. He was added, as well as Skylar Mays added on a two-way. So looking at them, Anthony Davis goes +1 to a 94 overall, basically averaging 30 points, pretty much over, what, is it 11 or 12 games for him? I think I saw that stat. D'Angelo Russell's really been struggling. Best bet for them is to let him run off the bench, kind of be a super scorer. He goes -2 to a 79. Jared Vanderbilt struggling with his shot, -1 to a 78. Christian Wood, -2 to a 76. Taurean Prince, -1 to a 75. And then Cam Reddish, -1 to a 73, while Max Christie gets a bump, +1 to a 73. The Lakers, I think, really like their trade candidates would be Hachimura, maybe Vanderbilt, Wood. Maybe they could flip Russell. Not a lot of appeal if I'm another team, honestly. So we'll see what happens. But big update here, Paolo Banchero for the Orlando Magic gets a +2 bump to an 87 overall. Really been flourishing this year. Definitely improved. Jalen Suggs gets a +1 bump to an 80 overall. He joins the 80 overall club finally. We get a -1 for Wendell Carter Jr. to a 78. He's been struggling coming off the bench since return from injury. Goga Bitadze goes +1 to a 77 overall. He's been starting, looking okay. Jonathan Isaac is now hurt, but he did go -1 to a 76 overall. And then Gary Harris goes -1 to a 75 overall. I thought Chuma Okeke might drop, and then Caleb Houston deserved a bump, but no updates for them in this one. Dallas Mavericks, Luka Doncic goes +1 to a 97 overall. Basically, 30 points, 8 rebounds, is it 10 assists, I think? He's been averaging, so look really good overall. Or 35 points, I'm sorry, for him. So look really good, so he deserved the bump. Tim Hardaway Jr. goes -1 to a 79. Position change for him to shooting guard, while Dante Exum gets a +1 to a 79 and gets a position change to small forward. He usually starts there, but he's been hurt for the last 5 or 6 games. We'll see what happens when he returns, but he's been flourishing this season. Then we have Josh Green going +1 to a 76 overall. Grant Williams goes -1 to a 76 overall. He's looked awful. And then getting an increase in minutes, I think, really hurt him as his conditioning wasn't up to par and it's showing, especially with his shot and his legs looking dead. Seth Curry, goes to a -1 to a 74 overall, tied with Jaden Hardy because they both kind of split minutes off the bench. AJ Lawson, biggest mover in the update by far, goes +5. Position update to small forward, but he goes to a 72 overall, was a 67 overall. So then position change for Markieff Morris to center. Going over to the Brooklyn Nets, some changes for them. Mikal Bridges goes -1 to an 85. Position update to shooting guard. We got Cam Johnson updated to an 81 overall, +1 with the position change to small forward. Then we get into 2 players that were downgraded. Spencer Dinwiddie -1 to a 79 overall, and then -2 for Cam Thomas to a 79 overall. Lonnie Walker goes -1 to a 77. Day'Ron Sharp, who's hurt right now but was playing well before, gets a bump to a +2 to a 76 overall. +1 for Dennis Smith to a 75. -1 for Royce O'Neal with a position update to power forward. He goes to 74 overall. And then position updates for Keon Johnson to shooting guard and Jalen Wilson to small forward. Wilson was in the rotation a little bit when injuries hit. He's back out of it now, but he was playing really well. So he goes +2 also to a 70 overall. Going to the Denver Nuggets, small changes for The bench players, we get Reggie Jackson -1 to a 77, +1 for Peyton Watson, or +2 for Peyton Watson, -1 for Christian Brown, +1 for DeAndre Jordan. They really got to upgrade their bench if they want to make it back to the NBA Finals, in my opinion. They could use another scorer and another big man just to have depth on the team. Going over to the Indiana Pacers, Tyrese Halliburton avoided major injury. He, however, did not avoid going down in the update. He goes -1. We get a +2 for Miles Turner to an 85 overall. Halliburton goes to a 93, by the way. Benedict Mathurin goes +1 to an 81 overall. We get Obi Toppin -1 to a 79. I think Boucher would fit, but Boucher's been struggling in Toronto this year, so I don't know how much value technically he has. We get Jalen Smith, position updated to power forward, and then Andrew Nembhard goes -1 to a 76 overall. New Orleans Pelicans, they've looked good lately. No update for the big names at the top, but Jonas Valanciunas goes -1. Herb Jones goes -1 to a 79. Valanciunas to -1 to an 83. Then we get Larry Nance Jr. +2 to a 77, while Najee Marshall goes -1 to a 76. I was a little surprised that Jordan Hawkins didn't get a +1 bump since he's been shooting it well in limited minutes, kind of as a sharpshooter off the bench. Him and Trey Murphy have been phenomenal shooting the ball. I thought that, he deserved an update, but maybe on the next one. Going over to the Detroit Pistons. Luckily, Cade Cunningham avoided major injury, but he'll be out for a few games. He did go +1 in this update to an 84 overall. Bojan Bogdanovic goes -1 to an 81 overall. He gets position update to small forward, while Jaden Ivey goes +1 to a 79. -1 for Ausar Thompson to a 79. -1 for Marvin Bagley III to a 77. Alec Burks goes +1 to a 76. -1 for Marcus Sasser to a 76. Killian Hayes position update to point guard with a position update to point guard with a 75 overall, -1 in this one. Isaiah Stewart position update to power forward. Joe Harris goes -1 to a 74 overall. Bojan is the small forward. The power forward is Isaiah Livers, who's awful, but that's because Stewart is out. Otherwise, he'd be starting. Speaking of power forward, also Kevin Knox gets playing time. He does go +2 to a 72 overall. Going over to the Toronto Raptors, Pascal Siakam goes +1 to an 87 overall. He's been looking really good lately. Emmanuel Quickley goes +1 to an 81 overall. RJ Barrett, position update to shooting guard. Dennis Schroeder goes +1 to an 80 overall. +1 to a 77 for Gary Trent Jr. Position update for Jalen McDaniels to power forward. And Jonte Porter gets a small bump, +3 to a 70 overall. Has played well since coming to the Raptors. He gets a position update to center. Houston Rockets, we get an update to Alperen Sengun. 86 overall, +1. 84 overall, +1 for Fred VanVleet. Then we get some position updates to Tari Eason to power forward. Small forward update for his position for Jason Tate. Position update for Jeff Green to power forward, who also goes -2 overall. And then Cam Whitmore has been playing phenomenal in limited minutes. He goes +1 to a 75 overall. Victor Wembanyama, triple-double machine last night. He goes +1 to an 87 overall. Devin Vassell gets a position update to shooting guard. Position update to small forward for Keldon Johnson. Then position update for Jeremy Sohan to power forward. He also goes +1 to a 77 overall. And then Zach Collins gets a +1 bump to 78 overall, although he's out for like the next 2 weeks. Jetty Osman goes -2 to a 74. Been struggling shooting it. Malachi Branham was starting at point guard before his injury. Now he's back, but coming off the bench. He gets position update to point guard. Julian Champagnie gets a position update to small forward. He's starting there. Goes +3 to a 73 overall. Sandro Mamakalashvili goes +1 to a 73, excuse me. And then Dominic Barlow goes +3 to a 70 overall. Phoenix Suns. It's not looking great in Phoenix right now. Devin Booker goes -1 to a 74 overall. Yusuf Nurkic goes +1 to an 82. Grayson Allen gets a position update to small forward, goes +2 to a 78 overall. Eric Gordon position update to shooting guard. Chimezie Metu +1 to a 76 overall. Nasir Little -1 to a 75. Drew Eubanks -1 to a 75. And then Josh Okogie -1 to a 74. OKC Thunder. Chet Holmgren's looked good lately too. +1 to an 86 overall. It's a battle for Rookie of the Year between him and Wemby. Jalen Williams goes +1 to an 82 overall. And Josh Giddey's been playing well lately. Goes +1 to an 80 overall. Going over to Minnesota. Anthony Edwards is back in the 90 overall club. +1 for him. Karl-Anthony Towns goes -1 to an 86 overall. Jaden McDaniels goes -1 to a 79 overall. Kyle Anderson goes -2 to a 75 overall. Jordan McLaughlin goes +1 to a 74, while Shake Milton goes -1 to a 73. Going over to the Portland Trailblazers, position update to Anthony Simons back to shooting guard, while Malcolm Brogdon gets position update back to point guard. Brogdon dropped -1 to an 81 overall. Jeremy Grant now is in second place for overall rating on the Blazers. He goes +1. Shaedon Sharpe dips -2 to an 80 overall. Scoot Henderson, now starting at point guard, goes +1 to a 77. Jabari Walker goes +1 to a 76. Tamari Kamara goes +1 to a 74, while Jop Reith goes +2 to a 74. I expect him to get converted to a standard contract. He's been looking really good. He shoots the three. Doesn't rebound the greatest, but at least can kind of give them a little scoring at the center spot. So, Golden State Warriors. Some changes for them in this one. Steph Curry goes -1 to a 95. Hasn't been shooting it as efficiently lately. Klay Thompson gets a position update back to shooting guard. He goes -1 to a 81. Jonathan Kuminga goes +1 to a 78. Moses Moody goes -1 to a 76 with a position update to small forward. Brandon Podziemski goes +1 to a 77. Trey Jackson Davis goes +3 to a 77. Also gets a position update to center for them. And then last but not least, two position changes, very minor. Lester Canones to small forward and Guy Santos to power forward. That's more G League related than NBA related. Last but not least, we got the Washington Wizards. We get Kyle Kuzma, -2 to an 82 overall. Hasn't been shooting it as effective lately. Denny Avdia goes +1 to a 79. Daniel Gafford +1 to a 79. Jordan Poole -1 to a 78. The last two games he's looked okay, but before that it was really bad for Jordan Poole there for a little while. Danilo Gallinari goes -1 to a 76 overall. I thought he could dip maybe one more down. Hamidou Diallo got added to a 10-day contract, or added to the Wizards on a 10-day contract. We'll see if he gets any playing time. Landry Shamet goes -1 to a 75 overall. Position update to shooting guard, point guard for him. And then last but not least, Eugene Amarui gets a position update to small ball center. And so that wraps up the fourth official ratings update. Who do you think should have went up? Who do you agree? Who do you think went up, should have went up? Who do you think should have went down? Who do you think 2K got right in this update? Let me know in the comments below. Please, please, please also hit that like button on this video. There's 33 of you watching live right now. I appreciate that support so much. Trying to get to 2K subscribers by the end of NBA 2K24. Let me know any suggestions for some videos that you'd like to see. Maybe I can get it done in some spare time. Please, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. It really means a lot if you hit the subscribe button. Helps us in the overall YouTube algorithm. Pretty much I bring as much content as 2K puts out. I can bring it in a video. Hoping we get some more retro updates down the line so I can do some videos on that. Got some personal rosters also coming at some point. Pretty much have the LeBron era done as far as, like, all the eras are done as far as missing players added for me. Now it's just going through and doing the tendencies. So that takes the longest time, to be honest. The tendencies are a rough beast this year. I'm trying to figure out scales since they changed a lot this year with the gameplay mechanics. It's not like you can plug in 2K22 scales and just be okay. It's not going to work. I try to plug them in and use the default superstar sliders the best I can without changing much, because I want people to have that experience of a good roster but able to use default sliders. My opinion is if you start changing around the sliders, it changes around what strength the badges and the tendencies have, and I don't want to do that. I want to keep the roster as authentic as possible. Hopefully can have a preview video out of at least the players on the roster. I do have, I believe, a Kobe era roster uploaded to 2K Share. That one is not complete, but I'm working towards it. It has all the players in it updated, so just type in my gamer tag PT Sports 84. You can find that. Hopefully I can get a LeBron era one up pretty soon, maybe as soon as this weekend. Won't have tendency updates, but we'll have all the other goodies in it that usually come in my roster updates, so look out for that. But yes, please, please, please hit that subscribe button, bringing you all the great 2K content that I can bring. So until next time, hope everybody has a great rest of your week. Stay safe, and I'll see you on the next one.